Good morning, everybody. Would you stand with me, and we'll begin with our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for today, and we thank you for the wonderful weather we've had and a successful weekend event here around the courthouse. We're certainly grateful, Lord, that the ice bypassed us and we didn't have to deal with the negative elements involved like they did in north of us and in the Metroplex. Lord, we just turn the meeting over to you now and ask that you be our guide and the provider of the decision-making that we need in each of these matters, whether great or small. We just thank you for Christmas time and the time to celebrate the birth of our Savior and Lord. And we just commit this season over to you, this meeting over to you, and the job of every person that works in this county over to you. Be with our servicemen and women wherever they may be during this holiday time while it's tough on them being separated from families. We just ask that you would ultimately bring them home safely. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are your two mics on? All right, thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting of the month of December. Today is the 9th of December, and it's 9 a.m. or shortly thereafter, and we're going to begin with item number 1, public comments and/or requests for information on non-agenda items in accordance with Section 551.042 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. I don't have any requests to speak, but I'm going to open up the floor if there's anybody that would like to say something. All right, if not, I'll move on to item number 2, consider and possibly approve the minutes from our last meeting, the second meeting of November, our special meeting of the Commissioners Court.
Judge, look at those minutes and I make a motion we approve them.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hinton. I'll second that. Thank you, Joyce, for providing those minutes. All in favor of approval of those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And there are none. Item number 3, status report on the Titus County pass-through projects. I had put this on without the assurance that we would have a report today, but just in case we had a presentation by Pate, and we do not. Pate is vigorously working on our bridge issue there at the south end of town. In fact, they're in a meeting as we speak with engineers. They are working diligently and have had many meetings here in the last couple of weeks with contractors, with the engineer today. I've had a couple of conversations, but unfortunately we still don't have the information prepared for them to make a full presentation to us. They understand that we are anxiously waiting on it, but they, like we, are anxiously waiting on a solution as well. But they are working towards the fastest, most economical fix that they can so that this project is not delayed any further. I will again report back to you, or we may have a special meeting should they come up with a presentation for us prior to our meeting 2 weeks from now on the 23rd. Item number 4, consider and possibly approve the addition of Sandi Luttrell to the Titus County Welfare Board. We had an appointment here back a few months ago, and they have had another opening and have requested that we appoint Sandi to the Titus County Welfare Board. She's gone through the application process and has passed, of course, all requirements there. They just need an approval from the court.
Take that motion. I'm sorry, could I ask, what is the Titus County Welfare Board?
The Titus County Welfare Board, I don't know what all they encompass, but they spend a lot of time working with children and special needs there, but I don't know what the full list of the things that they do are. Anybody else have any input on that? Anybody ever been a part of the Titus County Welfare Board? Sandi is a former educator and a fine person. She's leading the charge right now on trying to help us get a new animal shelter. And so Mr. Vineyard came the other day and presented this request to put Sandi Luttrell on here.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor of adding Sandi to the Titus County Welfare Board, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item number 5, consider and possibly approve a civil rights policy as it relates to the revolving loan fund. Just as a reminder, our revolving loan fund, which has not gotten a lot of discussion here in recent years, due to the fact, I believe, that interest rates have been low, the available monies that we have in the revolving loan fund have not been as much in demand as originally had hoped, or as actually as much in demand as it was several years ago when interest rates were not as high. We continue to have available some revolving loan funds, which we have at our disposal to loan out to companies that are interested in expanding, either adding to their existing facility, purchasing equipment, buying additional land or building to expand their operation, and that is tied to job creation. I was in a meeting Friday with a potential applicant for some monies for the revolving loan fund. I've been working in conjunction with Charlie Smith with the Industrial Foundation or the Economic Development Corporation, and we just haven't been able to find anyone who is willing to go through the process of borrowing these funds or that even needs these funds. Unfortunately, slowdown in economic times have caused that loan demand to be less than necessary. All that said, we may end up giving some of this money back to the state as we show no demand, and if we're unable to loan that money out, we may have to give some of that back, maybe not all of it back, but we'll continue to hope that there might be a request from somebody to borrow some of these funds that we have at our disposal. But either way, we need to, and I believe this was probably done back sometime many years ago when we established this revolving loan fund, but I would like to ask you all to approve a civil rights policy that's specifically required as part of the revolving loan fund requirements. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. It's a several-page document here, but it specifically asks us to approve this so that we continue to be in compliance with the requirements of this revolving loan fund. And again, this may have been in effect at the time that you did this, but nonetheless, just to ensure that, would you please give me approval on this civil rights policy so that we're completely in compliance with the revolving loan fund, even though it may not be around for much longer.
I make a motion, Judge.
Motion.
We approve.
What is a civil rights fund? We have laws to protect civil rights in every area of
No,
business?
not a civil rights fund. This is a policy, just a policy that's required as part of this revolving loan fund that relates specifically to who you can loan that money out and non-discrimination and things like that.
I mean, there's laws against non-discrimination.
Well,
Who you can loan that
absolutely, and you would think that this would go without saying, but they're giving you some clear guidelines as to who you must loan money to and what requirements that they have there. It's not anything that's out of the ordinary. Again, it's just tied specifically. It's not a general civil rights policy. It is just policies that are specifically tied to the creation and the administration of this fund and who gets to be able to borrow that money, because that money is loanable at lower interest rates.
I understand.
And that's money that was not provided, that was provided by the state years ago as part of their efforts to increase and stimulate, the economy.
Well, do they require us to have a different civil rights policy from the rest of the world and the rest of the laws?
No.
Why are we
No.
having one then, if it's not complied with by everyone?
Again, I think it's just to ensure that if we're going to administer and have access to these funds and be able to loan out these funds, it just gives us guidelines as to who is eligible to borrow those funds.
But Brian, aren't you going to give them a copy of it so they can read it?
Sure, I can do that.
Should they vote on
Well, our assumption, we believe that this was done when this was first put into place. But, yeah, I'll be glad to. If you want to postpone that, you want to read over this, you're certainly welcome to do that.
The only requirement we got is, this is a requirement of the state. That's what Brian did. is we went on-
It's an
we went
extra
to the
thing.
state- We went to the state, we went to the state.
Well, I just hate-
Downloaded the policy, they told us we need to follow.
This is just me as a commissioner. I hate to vote for something I don't know what it is.
Sure.
That's fine.
And I just,
The only thing we have to do is that we have to give them a copy
of our policy.
of our policy that's approved
Civil
in
rights.
court by December 31st. So you can do it next.
Well, we're not setting a policy, we're going by the federal policy on civil rights.
Now, I understand that, that's why I don't even know why they make us have a policy. It's kinda like what was-
And that's all we're gonna vote on is
There's
that-
laws on the book that tell you can't discriminate.
That's right, that's all we're gonna vote on is that we're gonna follow the federal
This is a
federal
specific
guidelines.
letter we got from the revolving loan fund department. that
understand.
said, we need to see your civil rights policy.
I understand.
Well, they're just asking us to check it and sign it that, yes, we are abiding by that.
Right, and then we have one that they can see, it has to be looked at this.
So if you want to vote on it, fine. If you would like to read it over before you vote on it, we just want to get it done by the next meeting.
Before we are out of compliance, we have to turn all of them.
You think it was done in the beginning? You think we did it back then?
Well, I would have thought, I was here, I saw it very well.
Well, it's funny that they're coming back and asking for it again now.
Yeah. I can't imagine that they gave us the money to start with, if we didn't fulfill all the requirements they had at the
I
time.
think we had to follow the federal guidelines then.
We have to follow with every federal guideline there is. It's just some more paperwork for some auditors and officers. But we're not doing anything outside the laws. And we won't do anything except, that's three.
Two times?
Yeah, really, I guess
Well, no, I guess the door company back years and years ago, 15 years ago or something like, maybe 20.
almost 20, and then when Mr. Creeper bought them out, he just assumed the note.
And then he's borrowed again and paid it back, and
Well, they wasn't even borrowed. He
Yeah.
just assumed that note, it's only really been loaned out once.
I thought he came back and borrowed again a second
We
time.
made him a note.
Twice.
Yeah.
But since then, he's paid all that
We
back.
already had to turn some of this money back in because we can't find anybody that wants to borrow. I don't remember exactly how much we turned back in. I want to say it's
And we
About
had several-
130,000.
We've had several that applied for it, but they didn't meet the qualifications to the guidelines.
Well, job creation is the toughest one. Also, divulging personal information about your company makes it a little bit tougher. And this has been a tough deal, according to Charlie Smith, with the Industrial Foundation for years. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me what the default rate is on those loans?
If someone were to, that can pretty well be set by us. We can make that determination, depending.
How does it exist with, have there been 10 default or 5 or 3 or what?
Well, you'd certainly want to, for somebody to be attracted to something like this, originally it was below what they could borrow at their local financial institution by a couple of points. So that's the attraction to do it, and that's why it was provided, so that we could make loans in situations where somebody might not be able to afford what their bank rate was and maybe needed a little bit of help there on the interest rate to make this more attractive.
I understand, but what I'm asking is how many defaults have you had in this program?
How many defaults? I didn't hear that word. None. We haven't had any. We've had none. But again, there hasn't been much activity, really only 2 different borrowers.
Of course, that has to do with the employees too, how many employees they're gonna have too.
40 or 60 in
Yeah, they got,
jobs. I mean, it's not like every small business.
It's one job for every $25,000 that's borrowed. So if you borrow $100,000, you're expected to produce 4 jobs within 4 new jobs within, I think, a 5-year period, somewhere in that period.
Well, I didn't mean to get all this discussion started.
Well, that's all right. It's something we don't discuss very much, but
Well, I
again, it hasn't been
understand that-
top of mind.
The way that I can imagine most of these programs or grants or anything is the person that's applying should give their civil rights policy, not us. That would be a logical step. For us to have one is, I think, moot.
Like I said, I don't really know why we have to have a separate policy.
We have civil rights with everything we do up here.
That's right. And so the person, though, the company that's applying for one of these, they should be required to give a policy. What
And that may
they're,
be also,
Well, there are requirements that they have to meet, but again, we'll have every opportunity to evaluate that if and when we get a request for these funds. I'd like to think that we could, but maybe not. All right, I do have a motion to approve this, and if you want to wait, we can wait. If you want to second this and vote on it, we'll do that. All right.
we should table it until they ask us for it.
I do.
Commissioner Hinton made the motion on the civil rights policy, and second by Commissioner Hockaday. All those in favor of approving this civil rights policy so that we can confirm with the state, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, moving on to item number 6, consider and possibly approve payment of a CDL license fees on behalf of county employees. Commissioner Fields touched on this at the last meeting. Will you give us a reminder of what benefits are afforded to county employees when it comes to CDL licenses, and why we have somewhat of an advantage, and it's a relatively small investment that you're thinking we ought to be covering on behalf of that employee to make them eligible?
You have to, the county employees have to have a CDL. You can have a B or A, just depends on what you're driving, but a B will drive most of our trucks. The legislators this last session passed a bill stating that if you're going to keep your CDL, that you have to have your a physical done. You have to go to the doctor and have this done. The state comes in and says, okay, if we're going to do this, we've got a lot of city employees, a lot of county employees, we got a lot of employees that drive the 5 to 12-yard dump trucks. We got one driver that drives an 18-wheeler. The county or the drivers start January the 1st have to have this. It's an exempt, basically an exempt CDL license that you go and you go to the driver's license office, you fill out the paperwork, and I think every county employee, road hands, have that information. Well, I think they do. But anyway, that was made up and given to each of the commissioners. The first 3 pages, if you're going to get the exempt license, then they put on there, you get a Class C license, but you're exempt. You can drive county trucks, county equipment. But that's it. You can't go out here and drive an 18-wheeler or something like that, but you are exempt. That's city, county, any city or anything like that might have that. I talked to Franklin County commissioners here about a month or so ago, maybe been 6 weeks ago, and they brought all their county road and bridge employees over to the driver's license office, and they did it all at one time. My suggestion is to let the county employees go up there at their convenience, or if you want to let them go up there on county time, that's fine, because you're trying to get them licensed for the first of the year. If they're going to keep their CDL license, they're going to have to go get a physical, and that's mandatory. It has to be done that way, or you automatically lose your Class A license or B license. If you it refers back to a Class C license, and you will be exempt from, you can drive that county truck or that city truck with these exempt licenses. It costs $11. I know Franklin County said that they were paying for their employees to get that license. So that's basically what it pertains to. You got to fill out 3 pages, and they go up there. My suggestion would be is let the county employees pay for it and bring a receipt to us if we want to do it that way, and we can have checks made out to them. If we do it all at one time, you have to have a check for that amount. Their books have to balance if you go up there. So,
Mike, I don't know if we want to make a check to each one of them. We might just add it to the
Carl,
payroll account. Would that be the best way instead of making everybody a check?
Well, wait just a minute. I guess we're not going to have any discussion about this. I just happen to have, I've been in this business for 50 years. CDLs is a personal thing. I have a CDL. It's exempt. That belongs to me. The county shouldn't pay for a CDL. Now, the physical, we require them to have a physical, we should pay for that. That commercial license, anybody who works for the county can go to work for Lone Star Steel if they just leave that exempt off of there, where it's government work. But you can, and I don't think that we should be involved in deciding who gets a CDL. That's up to the individual. The city of Mount Pleasant, if you go to work for them, they'll give you 6 months if you're going to drive a truck. And then the other thing, you're only required to have a CDL if you drive a vehicle over 40,000 pounds gross. You don't even need one for these bobtails or these little 1 tons that Mr. Fields used in Precinct 2 or whatever it is. So this, I don't think we should get into the business of CDLs or giving people CDLs. We can, anybody can get a CDL that wants to, but it's a personal thing. And I don't think we should do it. I think if we require them to have a physical, which we're going to be required, and I know that's a fact, the legislature says that we're going to have to, and I think we should pay for the physical.
Getting this C-class license exempted from having to get the physical?
yes.
Yeah, you can get a government exempt. Can't get hazardous material on it. We only got one guy that's got one that's got all of it. That's Ricky Joyner.
So I think what Mr. Fields was looking at, I don't speak for him, was that it would be cheaper for the county to pay $11 for them to get an exempt license than it would be for the county to pay for the physical.
You don't have a choice in the physical.
Well, I thought you did on the C. You don't? You still have
The C, if it goes back to C, if you, for example, right now I've got a Class A license. January the 1st, it'll automatically go back to a Class C.
You got to, I thought it was January the 31st. What I read in the statute of the legislature, they're going to have a physical.
But you still have to have a physical even with the Class C.
If you're driving a truck out there and the DPS stops you and you got that Class C license driving a dump truck or an 18-wheeler, you're going to get a ticket.
Just a CDL. And everybody may not even drive a CDL in the city.
Okay.
In other words, James Webster drives a little half-ton pickup. He don't need a CDL. So we're only talking about, well, I got all 4 of my guys drive dump trucks. I suppose that's the situation down there too. So those 4 guys drive,
16 people.
but they're 40,000 pounds loaded, so that means they do need a CDL. That's their CDL. They can leave here and go to work for Lone Star Steel. That's theirs. My CDL is my CDL.
If they don't do this, and it's not required, if they don't do this, explain again what process they have to go through in order to be completely legal to drive one of our vehicles.
To drive for the county, if it's over, my understanding was, I can recheck that, but anything over a ton truck where you got loads of material, some of these trucks we have, dump trucks haul 6 to 8 tons of material plus your truck. All of our employees had to have at least Class B CDL. I have a Class A. Mr. Reynolds has a Class A. I think Philip has one. Thomas does not, but we have those licensed. They're going to go back to a Class C if you don't go get that physical just like you normally do. But you can be exempt from driving county and city trucks, just county and city trucks.
2 of my employees have CDLs. 2 of them don't, out of the 4. So those 2 need to go get one because I do want them to be able to drive those loaded dump trucks, which exceed.
Do you care if they go through the physical process or not?
No, they have to go through it. Once they get that CDL, they gotta have a physical.
When I say I'm confused, I thought you said, Mike, they didn't have to have the physical.
They do not.
If they're only going to drive for the county.
If they're going to drive.
Now, if they work on the weekends and have a truck where they're needing a CDL, I think that they're going to need to have their CDL the regular
All
way.
the other stuff then,
That
but
is
just to drive our trucks and work for us, they don't have to have
They'll
that
be
physical.
exempt.
This
All they
is
gotta
just
do-
for exempt status,
That's
to
right.
drive our trucks.
That's right, for the county only.
If you're going to drive out drive a big rig or anything larger, then you'll have to have CDL, then you have to have the physical. None of my guys are going to do that. They just want to be exempt to be able to drive ours.
That's mine.
But do they all, my CDL.
I've got, counting myself, I've got one other that has CDL, no, two others that have CDL. So, I mean,
You just got
my
two
understanding is that if you do not do this, then you will not be able to drive the dump truck, period. This is just to exempt you from that, but not allow you to drive one anywhere else. Unless you get the physical, which I'm gonna go get the physical, but I'm gonna take care of that myself. So, that's that. That's my understanding of it.
But this $11 is what the fee is for them just
To get the
continue
exempt
driving our trucks.
license.
Two of mine done went and got it, done theirs at $11 where they can continue to drive.
And if somebody wants to have a full-blown CDL, they're not interested in going through this process.
No.
They've got to get their own physical,
Right.
because, and that license will enable them to drive for the county, but it'll also enable them to do their side job if they had one, driving a big truck.
Correct.
So what we're doing is we're giving them $11, saying, we want you to be able to drive our trucks, and here's a cheaper way to do it than getting a physical.
Right.
Is that fair?
Well, I've been in business a long time. First time I've ever heard of having to buy a license, driver's license.
Is this
for an
something, is this a
employee.
new exemption?
Mr. You can go check with the DPS, because I went and checked with them, they gave me this, they said, you're either exempt, you go back to a Class C license, you're exempt, if not, you get a physical, and you go through whatever you want to drive, you can qualify for that. But as far as these road hands, it's $11. If you go through, I think it's, how much is it for a CDL license? It's quite a bit more.
I think it's $40 or something.
Oh,
Used to be.
it's higher than that.
Is it?
You get each,
60,
it's a little charge for each one. If you
Each
want hazardous
yeah.
material, doubles and
I
triples.
think it was.
There's a charge for all of them.
I think it started off when we first got
It's
them,
about
like $20 or so, but that was been,
It's $100. You can spend $100 if you get enough endorsements on your license.
Yeah.
It's a fee for everything. If you want to pull twin trailers, triples.
I'm gonna make a motion, we go ahead and pay the $11 for all of those that need to get the CDL license. Or
Exempt CDL.
exempt CDL license, and I'll make that a motion.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Hockaday,
second.
motion by Commissioner Hinton. I'd just like to hear you a little bit more and be sure that we've explained this adequately, and not you, but Commissioner Riddle. Is there anything that you want, that you still are not comfortable about this?
If they want a CDL license, they should pay for their CDL license. We shouldn't be in that's like, I've got a pilot license. How about, we need a pilot, this county. Y'all gonna pay for my pilot license? That's ridiculous, I think. If they want a CDL, they gotta go. We require them to get a CDL to drive those trucks. They should go get it. And if they do, we'll give them the physical.
Are they really getting a CDL license, Commissioner
Just with the
Fields?
exempt status.
Yeah, it's a CDL license. And like I said, it's cheaper. Go down there and talk to them.
Okay.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper
But
than
it only enables them to drive county vehicles.
government. They can drive a Lone Star Arsenal
Okay.
vehicle, too.
Okay.
Or Homeland
Well, it seems to
Security.
me that the logic is we're asking them, we're paying for something that we need for them to have that doesn't really give them any rights and privileges beyond their job with the county. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know. I don't believe that, but that could be true. You could be right. I don't believe that's the fact.
I honestly don't know. I'm just
By getting
asking.
this exempt license, are we then also saving the county the cost of the physical? Because we pay for the physical. I know we do for the electric, for the sheriff's department, so I'm assuming we pay for the physical for the driver. So we're paying $11 instead of $45 or whatever the physical cost. So we're actually saving the county money.
Yes.
Well, I don't understand that statute is saying we don't have to have a physical, but he said that, and I don't know that's not in there.
That's what I'm understanding.
That's correct.
The exemption is exempt from physical.
All it does is,
I haven't read it either, so I don't know.
the first of the year, if you do not have this exempt license, which costs $11, then you will get a regular Class C license. If you have to go back and take your test and everything, you got to retest, go back and redrive, you got to do everything.
Where are you getting this Class C? They don't have a
From the
separate
DPS office, the
CDL.
lady that was out there, I've been over there twice with her and talked to her, and she said it has to be, you lose your Class A and B license first of the year. You have to have it by the first of the year.
CDL or CDLs. Class A or something else.
Somebody that goes through this process after January 1, will they have a CDL license?
Is my understanding, no.
That's my understanding. But they do have, what is it that's on that
They would
license that says, I know I don't have a CDL, but I can still drive these trucks for the county or the city?
It basically has on there, they're exempt because they're county.
So it's a different classification that they get with that $11
It goes back
payment.
to a Class C license, but they are exempt from driving the county and city equipment, state trucks. The state employees can get the exempt tags. Exempt license.
And it's not a license that they can then go on Saturday and Sunday and drive an 18-wheeler or something like that. They don't have that level of a
If they were
CDL.
the county, they could, but they can't go to a business somewhere and drive on those licenses. They have to get a regular CDL.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor of approving payment of this $11 so that our county employees that need to drive the county trucks will have the appropriate designation on their Class C license in order to drive those. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, got one opposition. All right, thank you.
For the record, I don't agree with this. A Class A CDL is for heavy trucks. A Class C is a lighter truck, drive a one-ton truck. We don't need that. I don't need that. I want all four of my guys to get in that dump truck, a 40,000-pound plus truck. So a Class C is wasted unless this guy's going to just run a, grass cutting truck or something, Class C. So I disagree with the whole process.
Okay.
They need to get their own CDLs.
Item number 7, consider and possibly approve a recommendation from the Bail Bond Board to release funds on deposit on behalf of Fast Freedom Bail Bonds, which is no longer in business. Back at the time we formed the Bail Bond Board and we had each of the new companies that signed up to be part of the Bail Bond Board or to be governed by the Bail Bond Board. We had one company, Fast Freedom Bail Bonds, which did go through the necessary processes to put up the appropriate collateral to be eligible to bond in Titus County. They have since decided to do something else. They're no longer in business. We approved them shutting down at the last Bail Bond Board meeting, and currently they have a liability to the county that is no longer necessary. And although we don't actually physically hold a CD in our hands, we still need to give them the ability to work with their insurance company to get released from this obligation to the county. Any questions on that? Be glad to go into it further if you would like.
This is not someone that's changed their name to another bail bond,
No,
have they?
no.
Oh, okay.
No, this is an individual that I don't really know why he decided to get into the bail bond business, but he's no longer involved in the bail bonding business.
I
He's
make a
in the-
motion to approve the recommendation.
All right, motion by Commissioner Hinton,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 9, we apparently have no travel and seminar requests this month. Oh, 8, I skipped. Very important. Consider and possibly authorize county judge to set a date, time, and location for a public hearing regarding the formation of a county energy transportation reinvestment zone. We'll have more discussion on this in the future, but this was something that was just passed here last week in Austin that is going to enable the county to get some grant money. About $225 million has been made available for counties in the state. It is weighed primarily upon how much impact there has been on each county from oil and gas related activity. In other words, counties that have a lot of oil or gas wells that are being built and all these heavy trucks coming in and tearing up the roads are going to be more heavily weighed with these funds. We are eligible, out of that $225 million, we're eligible for $311,042. And it could be more than that if some counties choose not to apply for this or fail to get their paperwork done in time. There are some requirements in order to get this grant money, one of which, or one of the most important, is the formation of a county energy transportation reinvestment zone. And let's see if I can explain this or simplify this. I'm still trying to get my arms around it. But essentially, you designate an area or areas within the county, and they are then called this CETRZ, County Energy Transportation Reinvestment Zone. And the way that the state will gain back this money that they are making available, $225 million, is we obligate the increases in the taxable value of property within that zone then goes back to the state rather than increasing our tax base. So the idea here is if we improve that area, then the value of that area or the properties within that zone go up. And the state says, then if we are helping you to improve the value of that area that you have designated in that CETRZ, we want to be the beneficiary of those tax revenues on the increase in that value. Now, we will have some more discussion about this at a later time, but unfortunately, they've put a real short time frame on this to get everybody's applications filed. And we were literally given this information last week on Thursday when we were at our county extension agency office, and we had a day full of some continuing education. And we had Mr. Jim Allison there that was explaining this to us, the importance of getting on top of this quickly. So in order to get it done, we have to kind of rush this, and we're going to begin by setting a public hearing where we can further discuss this county energy transportation reinvestment zone. I'm also going to ask that we get Allison Bass to assist us with this process to make sure that we get it done timely and correctly. We would like to take advantage, I believe, of getting that entire $311,000 and perhaps even more than that to help us with any problems on our county roads. Commissioner Hinton, what impact has energy-related activity had on some of your roads?
My roads were deteriorating, as normal, but when they started moving back in up around Talco and Sugar Hill, they have really taken a big impact as far as deterioration, and it's been hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
But it's put a strain on the budget.
Yeah. Well, this is precisely what this money has been made available for is to help offset some of the abuse of our county roads by these big, heavy trucks and stuff that we don't really have any control over, although we do theoretically reap some of the benefit of oil and gas activity in our county. This is one of the negative things that occurs, and that is the damage to your road. And $311,000 would be a nice influx of money for us that we could use, and it'll be up to us to come up with road projects. That'll be part of this application for this grant. We will tell them what road projects we need worked on, how much we anticipate they will cost, where they are located. There will be quite a bit of information that will be required in order to apply for this grant. But one of the first things we need to do is have this public hearing. So I'm not sure exactly when I'll set this public hearing. I want to be in communication with Allison Bass, the legal firm, to help us figure out the best date to get this done. And again, I'll ask you at a later time to allow us to hire them. I believe that their fixed rate for their fixed fee is $5,000 to help us get this done, and that can be paid for out of whatever funds that we receive from this grant. But this is, as far as I can tell, it appears to me to be a guaranteed grant if you go through the application process in the proper manner and in the proper time frame. Yes, ma'am.
I understand what you're saying about what kind of good it's going to be for us. I don't understand about how the state gets that money back by raising the property value. So, for example, if there's a section of Highway 71 in Talbot that's going to get resurfaced or whatever, then the property owners that own property on Highway 71, or their property values are going to go up, they're going to have higher taxes.
I don't have a complete and full understanding to be able to answer that question first. This was just given to us last Thursday, but we will certainly want to make all the negative side of it, like you're talking about, if that is indeed the case. We'll certainly want to make that very clear. And how much property you bring into this zone really is, you know, as I understand it, you can include nothing but right-of-way in these zones. So you can define small areas, you can follow along a roadway. So I don't believe that you have to encompass big areas or neighborhoods or business areas in order to do that. But I will have more information, and I'll be equipped to answer that question before we commit to any of this. But that's a good logical question, and that was one of the questions that came up the other day.
I understood that it didn't necessarily improve the value of the property.
Yeah, it may or may not. No, there's no guarantee that it does.
Yeah, and he said you start off with your roads and work them down, and then you left out one thing. We have to pay 10%. We're disadvantaged.
We are a disadvantaged county, so as opposed to having a 20% match in order to get this grant, we only have to put up a 10% match.
Which is $31,000 to get $311,000, but in the grant. And I didn't understand that it would. I thought you could have as many roads as you wanted to on it. He said, matter of fact, have more than you.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's up to the county, and they don't have to be necessarily roads that are damaged by oil and gas activity.
No, just have your project list. But I didn't understand that that the taxes would increase necessarily. I mean, if the appraisal district. I mean,
well, it's only if the value increases. It's not the taxes increasing.
Well, the taxes go along with it.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
anyway, I should have said value of the property increased. I thought it was to repair the roads, that all energy done, not to increase the value. I missed that.
Well, that's not the objective. The objective is to repair roads. And again, it doesn't have to be roads that are directly affected by energy. This allocation of $311,000, that calculation was done by the state based on things like oil and gas revenues and surtaxes, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't determine that, and we're not the ones that said, you know, we're greatly affected or moderately affected by oil and gas activity. They came up with that based upon reports that they get of oil and gas activity in our area. But we're not limited as to what roads we can spend that on.
But
And-
what
we
when
get-
you talk about that, O'Brien, if those values along those roads that are being repaired, if those values go up at all, we will have to give those tax increase monies to the state, probably until the whole 311 is paid back.
I can't answer that yet. I don't know. I don't have enough information in my hands yet. This deal is so new that we have not been given all that yet. But we will certainly have that. We'll have to have that information before we can make a decision on this.
That's kind
I
of
didn't
my
understand it.
understanding, that money goes back to the state,
I know.
an increase.
I understood is, only we got to pay is $31,000 back. We're not got to pay any of the $311,000 back. That's the way I understood it.
I don't think there's anything that says you have to ultimately pay back that $311,000.
They're going to say, if those values go up, until we get our $311,000 back, you're going to have to take that increase in days, and we're going to get that money.
It's over a period of time. I don't think that it's forever and ever until they get that money back.
But it could be the next 10 years.
I don't think it's even that long, but again, let me find out more about that.
This, what it basically amounts to, because of the energy discoveries in West Texas and the Panhandle and places like this, it had not been for these discoveries, the state would really be in bad trouble because of this new revenue that's coming in. It's put Texas way ahead of everybody else as far as revenue. The legislators, as my understanding, want to take some of this money and give it back to help with county roads. We got the timber industry coming in here, logging, going down every one of our roads, tearing roads up. Dirt hauling business tears up roads, chicken trucks, feed trucks. All this is a part of it. What they're trying to do is aid and assist the counties in some of these projects that's being tore up by heavy trucks. And you can make a list, but you don't have to do number one, you can do number three. And they, my understanding, they want some done in every precinct.
Mike, what I understand is reading the bill about it, it's not just a pure grant where they're giving you the money to help fix the roads. There is a potential to have to pay back. And the way that reads, I don't think it's just a
I thought,
$31,000.
I
Maybe it is.
think, I do understand it as a peer grant. I didn't understand the property value.
That's my
It
understanding,
appeared-
exactly what
Well, we just have to-
nothing was,
I didn't know about the appraised values. We've got to reimburse the state. I missed it. I might have been asleep.
I didn't hear that.
Well,
I missed it too, if they said it.
I thought that's what he said.
you know, as a whole, all the counties that participate in this, some areas will have much more increase in values related to what they do in road. This can be new road construction, new road repair. It's not necessarily, again, just strictly road repair. But this is one of the funding mechanisms that the state has been looking at is, you know, we can provide those funds, but if taxable values go up, which is what the hope is here, you know, that's where they're going to recoup some of this money. $225 million was made available for county roads, and another $225 million was made available for state roads. But they didn't want to just be going and fixing state roads. They wanted the counties, who are the ones that are really suffering some of, you know, our roads are not built to the standards that state roads are, and so, you know, we have situations where some of our primary corridors in some counties are being destroyed down to the dirt by these big trucks.
I think the misunderstanding is, I understood that the taxes would go up from the oil and energy industry is where the money would come from for the state, not the property values in the county is what, so I didn't understand it that way. They'd get their back.
I think he gave us a limited amount of information because I'm not sure that there was enough information gotten. But I'll try to get together something that's understandable and make it available to you in print, because we'll certainly need to know that and understand that, you know, before we would move forward. I can't imagine there would be any reason why we would not want to approve this, but again, we still have...
I have another question. maybe this is too early, but we don't have people here that can apply for that grant and save that $5,000? Yeah, me and Carl could do it. Carl
Well,
knows that.
we may be able to.
Why do we need to use Bassin?
We may be able
or
to.
Whoever it is, or Armory, or whatever that,
Allison Bass.
yeah,
Allison Bass.
I associated with the armored paint.
I just want to be sure we get it, since there's such a short time frame here. We don't want to miss the deadline. We don't want to be,
Carl can do it. I know he can, with no
I don't
doubt.
know what we're gonna have to do. But we just need to know if it's really a grant or if there is a payback for this year.
It's a grant.
And that $5,000 is gonna come out of that grant too. It comes, it's not paid by us.
It comes out of that grant if we get the grant. If we don't get the grant, we don't pay nothing.
We don't pay anything.
If we get the grant, we don't pay nothing.
No, if we get the grant, we
pay
get $5,000.
If we don't get one,
Oh,
If we
that's
don't
the
get
law
it-
firm to fill out
Yeah.
the paperwork, okay.
yeah.
Judge, I'm gonna make a motion, we authorize you to set everything, set it all in motion.
and it may be that we can have this, just before the next Commissioners Court meeting, if that time frame turns out to be, to enable us to get everything done that we want to get done, rather than having a special meeting for this. But we'll need some time to be able to explain this. I mean, that's the whole purpose for this public hearing, is to make sure that before we approve this, that can have an impact on, who we're taxing and how much they pay, that we have a clear understanding before we say, yes, we want to take that state money. There's always some kind of an obligation here, although it was certainly presented to us that this is a great deal. This is a nice thing that the state has voted to do, and I think that the downside is minimal.
But the guy at the the Texas Association of Counties would walk us through it and help us with the grant process. And then if we didn't want to do that, we could hire the law firm.
Well, that guy that was talking, he was the law firm.
I understand.
Jim Allison, yeah. Okay, I have a motion. Did I have a motion and a second by Commissioners Hinton and Commissioners Hockaday? All in favor of giving me the authority to set a time and a date and a location for this public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, item number 9, number 10. It's number 9 that we're going to skip, because we don't have any travel and seminars this month or this week. Item number 10, approve oral and written reports of county officials.
Judge, I've already given you all your cash for it.
Thank you.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Judy's office collects the property taxes, and she was collecting November's property taxes, but she has not turned them over to the county treasurer yet, so they're not in our figures yet. So, like this.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Riddle to approve oral and written reports.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 11, consider and possibly approve the treasurer's report.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve treasurer's report.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval of the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
And I'll get you to sign off on that report there. Item number 12, approved budget amendments. Have none. Item number 13, sign pay orders and approve payments on the bills.
Make a motion with pair bills.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of the approval of paying our bills that are due, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 14, closing comments, if any. I'll start on my far left. Commissioner Hockaday, anything?
I don't have any.
All right. Commissioner Hinton?
I don't have any, Judge.
All
Thank you.
right. We had an interesting weekend here around the courthouse with the artificial ice rink that looked pretty darn real when I was watching those kids skate. They had Santa over across the street in one of the vacant annex offices. Great turnout on the chili cook-off. And fortunately, we only had to cancel a few things. The O.B. Goolsby skeet shoot was cut short due to the weather. That'll be picked up again in January, but I think everything else was able to go on. We had a group from First Baptist Church, I think, that went up to Branson that got stuck for at least one extra day, and they ended up having to fly home last night. I think they got in about well, I don't know, they were due at the airport about 9 o'clock, so I don't know when they arrived back here, but apparently it was a bad situation not being able to get out of town and having to pay for an extra night in a hotel and extra meals, and folks that had not packed adequately for that long of a trip. So all things considered, this time anyway, Titus County dodged the bullet of the ice storm. And that's a lot less work for county employees since we didn't have that ice storm. Commissioner Fields?
No, sir.
All right. Commissioner Riddle? All right. Anyone else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Riddle to adjourn. Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you.